go through some Griffin lighting and show you some differences between things. Chris is going to kick it off with, there's two principal cameras here that we're dealing with. I'm just going to give a little intro and then we'll go from there. This is a traditional broadcast ENG camera. This is the same kind of camera. We shot everything I just was talking about, game shows, etc. This one happens to be able to record, which I'll talk about more in a minute. Because cameras that feed trucks don't have to have a recorder on the camera because you're recording in the truck. So you don't need that unit on the camera. This happens to have a built-in unit, and we'll talk more about it. Chris is going to start with, which is a much more cinematic style of camera. And Chris, you want to take it over and tell what this is?
Yeah, so this is the Red One. It was released in, I think, 2007. It was the first equivalent to a 35mm film camera, but digital. They use it anywhere from shooting a movie. I think they used it on like the first Pirates of the Caribbean, for example. And you'll use it for movies, narrative, high-end commercials, anything that needs to reach an illusion beyond what an ENG news gathering style camera would be. It's definitely less convenient to shoot with. It requires attention from multiple roles. Usually an assistant camera can be necessary. You can rig it out to go solo, which I do fairly often, but it requires a certain level of attention from different departments. There's no, the style of projects that you do are more complex in certain ways than going out and just gathering materials from what you see. You also can't, there are zoom lenses that you can get or a PL mount camera, but we actually use a set of cinema primes. I think they're called unique optics. Yeah, if you want to get one out. And the main difference between those two lenses is one's super convenient. You can go zoom in really tight, you can zoom out in a with a push of a button. This you have to take this apart and open up your matte box and take off the lens with the mount there. And it just takes longer. There's usually an assistant camera that's doing that while you're developing the lighting for a scene, or if you're a cinematographer and director, which happens to be fairly often, then you really don't have a whole lot of attention left for just technical nuts and bolts of this. So it definitely requires maintenance in the moment on set. You have with prime lenses or cinema prime lenses, you have angle aperture, which makes switching to different lenses very easy depending on your rigging. If it's on your shoulder and it's balanced, you don't want to put a longer lens. It's nice that they're all the same size and the same balance. You can switch very easily. Also, the focal shifts from what you'll get. You focus. You can do it in much broader movements, which makes your focus much more accurate. And this one has peaking, which kind of gets you an easy, quick looking focus. The main difference is your SLR lenses, like photography lenses like he's got right there. If you're going from a close focus to far focus, it'll happen without moving it more than 30 degrees, really. This, I believe, has 190 degree focus.
So what Chris is referring to, what he's referring to is, see those numbers, and you guys can look at these afterwards, but the increments of focus on this lens are broken down into fractions of an inch. That's why when they're shooting movies, they literally take a tape measure and they'll measure off from the gate of the camera where the sensor is, and they'll measure it to the person's nose, and they'll set the lens to that distance. I mean, that's a lot of cinematographers actually measure their shots. You know, you can't measure a shot if you're out shooting a nature documentary, go measure the shooter's nose. But that's how accurate the lenses are. Much more accurate than this. Even though this is a fantastic lens, much more accurate. And do you guys know what a prime lens is? You know what prime means, prime lens? It's not a zoom lens. This lens here is a 35mm, in other words, a fixed focal length lens. This, what's the one you have on the after?
That's the 50.
And this is a 35mm, so it would be a little bit wider. And then we have an 80, which would be tighter. So as you'll see in this kit, there's five. 5 different lenses in the kit because they're fixed focal lengths. To change the frame of the shot, you either have to change the lens or you have to physically move the camera. You can't zoom. Or you take this camera with the TV zoom lens and you can zoom and readjust. Obviously, there's times you want to use this instead of that, and vice versa.
They're very different qualities of image. A wide lens will have, I don't know if you noticed, lens distortion on a big wide thing where it's a little bit bent on the sides of the thing. It's called parallax. And the tighter your lens, the more it lessens that distortion. So the tighter, it's also closer up. It's using the wide lens have a very curved lens that creates that. It allows it to bend the light outward like this, so you can get a wider shot. I hope that's simple.
And also, I'm just going to make a demonstration of why does that camera make a much more cinematic, movie-looking look as opposed to this camera. And again, they're both super high quality. In fact, ironically, this camera costs more than that. But they perform different purposes. Does that have a 35mm size sensor?
Yeah.
So a 35, and I'm a little off, this is a little too big, but not much. The sensor, the plane that is actually recording the image is basically a flat plane that's light sensitive. And then the lens is focusing the image onto that plane. That's that photography has been since Baybridge, since they invented photography. This sensor is about that big. This sensor is a 2/3 inch. This sensor is more like that big. So the sensor in this camera is quite a bit smaller than the sensor in that camera. Without getting into a lot of technical stuff, that impacts the look a lot. Between the lenses and the sensor size, that is the primary difference. And then, why don't you talk about the amount of resolution, the 4K versus...
Yeah, so it also is just bigger. More light can hit it, so you can be more light sensitive in certain areas. I think the only thing, actually this has a really big aperture to this lens, which opens up the, have you ever seen an aperture? It looks like blades floating together and they open as a circle kind of thing.
Kind of like the iris in your eye.
An iris.
Exactly, your eye does it. You look outside, your eye shuts down. If you go into the dark, your eye opens up. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
You guys know what iris is? I mean, you may be doing filmmaking, but do you know what iris is? This would be a very small aperture, and this would be a very large aperture. And the smaller the aperture, the sharper the picture.
Yeah.
The sharper the picture.
When you're looking at the movie and you see the background's blurry and out of focus, when you open up your aperture, that's one way you can control the look of your image. So if you open all the way up with your iris, anything beyond what is in focus is more and more blurred, and the more you raise the number or close down your aperture, the sharp, what he's saying is that you have more probability of being in focus because much more space is in focus that way. It kind of works the same as when you kind of squint your eye and look through you're kind of squeezing your aperture for a sharper look at something. It's similar to squinting, it works very differently.
It would be cool if it was something in case is that loop.
Yeah.
You want to grab that?
Yeah, sure.
Well, Chris is grabbing what's called a loop, which is the neat thing about it. It's kind of a pain. You're out on production to swap out lenses. It's a bit of a chore to swap out lenses. It can be done quick, but if you want to look at different shots, you use a little device that kind of looks like a singular binocular, a monocle or something. You use this device where you can just change the lens settings on the device to see what your framing's like. It's called a loop, and a very handy device to have. So this camera, this camera is called Panasonic Baracam. Panasonic and Sony are the kingpins of the broadcast TV industry. Those two companies rule the roost in television. There's definitely some other companies. Philips is one, and so I think in Europe it was called Bosch, but I think it's now just Philips. There's others out there. Ikegami used to be very big. Surprise, surprise, almost all these things are made in Japan. Not China, but Japan. And Japan has been a leader in electronics since World War II. I mean, and they make fantastic stuff. I mean, very good quality stuff. So this Panasonic Baricam, what's so cool about this, like if I got hired, hey, you got to go shoot a live, you got to go shoot an event, or you got to work quick and you don't have an assistant, whatever, this camera's fantastic. It's a workhorse of a camera. It has a built-in monitor so I can see what I'm doing. And it's just rock solid. And it's also, and so it's called an EMG. Actually, what's interesting, these cameras came out of the fact that the first, sad thing to discuss, but the first war to be filmed with portable cameras, electronic video cameras, was the Vietnam War. And that was when they developed the idea of, oh, let's make an electronic camera that's recording the video. Because prior to that, here's what they filmed with in World War II.
Wow.
Is they filmed with 16mm Bolexes. This has no electronics in it. It has a sprayer. It winds up, and then I haven't used it in so long, and it films. So this is what they used. The big shift happened between World War II and Vietnam War. They shifted because the news wanted to tell people, hey, look what's going on, look what's going on. Well, back when they had to shoot on film, you had to get it processed. It didn't have audio on it, all these things, and so there was a delay in news. We all know now there's no delay anymore. You guys know in 2 minutes what's happening. So that was a big transition from these kind of cameras to what's called an ENG camera, electronic news gathering. That's what it stands for, ENG. Went past this around, you guys can check out this camera.
Cool.
Pass it around. And then, just because it's kind of fun, and so that's a Bolex. The Bolex is a very, very famous brand of movie camera, film camera. This is literally a camera I shot with when I was a kid. This is an 8mm Brownie Kodak camera. And it would shoot 3 minutes of video, not video, what am I talking about?
Yeah.
3 minutes of film, 8mm film, no audio, and to edit it, you had to, first of all, you had to take your film down to the drugstore, get it developed, so you had to wait a week to get your film back. You got your film back, you strung it out, and you literally cut it up with scissors and rearranged it and taped it back together. That is how highly advanced it is. And now you can shoot on your iPhone and send it to your friend and share something in a matter of minutes. So think that fact here, pass this around. This is probably, that camera is probably 75 years old.
Wow.
And this camera is probably 50 years old.
That's so cool.
So you guys check it out.
The 1923 Bell and Howell was a lot like that. There wasn't a whole lot of changes in the
Yeah.
years.
So this camera is designed that it fits on your shoulder real well. And it's heavy, it's a heavy camera, it's not a problem. When you film with these cameras, keep this in mind because this is helpful even with DSLRs or anything. Use your body to stabilize your camera. Don't try to do it like this. If you have your arms out here like this, you're gonna wander, you're gonna jitter. You want to use your arms like a tripod. So you put your arms, I like to have my arms against my body, and I let the camera like be right against my head. So it becomes like one, it becomes part of your body. And that's true even with Canon, D5s, whatever, 5Ds, I keep saying D5, 5Ds. So this is a very comfortable camera because it's designed to be balanced on your shoulder. Again, electronic news gathering. But also a lot of commercials get shot with these. This day and age though, the bigger sensor, 4K, 4,000 lines is really taking over the commercial world.
But you need more support. So if this is just you, and you need to go tell the story the best way you can, this is the answer. It's convenient, you can switch to a wide or a tight shot, put it up on your shoulder easily. It's more modular, you need different parts and pieces for the situation or the rigging, or if it's on a car, or if it's on your shoulder, or if it's just on sticks. If it's on sticks and you want to make it move, put it on a dolly, and if that's not safe, there's all these different parts and riggings that you need to make this really go. But they've come a long way since this camera, and there's a lot of smaller options that are coming out. We're waiting on our new Ursa Mini, the new Blackmagic camera. It's about more than it's more than half as light. And can't wait. Because the only thing holding this piece back is just how cumbersome and heavy it is to move around. So it's going to really impact productions just in how mobile you see. Another way to stay more mobile on set is a viewfinder, so you don't have to move the whole camera to the setup and see what it looks like. You can go, this is exact lenses, depending on what kind of lenses you have. It works great for 35mm sensors. You have the option is a 16mm film size, 35mm, and also the 35mm anamorphic, which is actually stretched, and then in post they squeeze it down to a widescreen. The old, the first movie that comes to my mind is Halloween from 1973, and those are very beautiful anamorphic lenses in that one. And they're becoming trendy. There's cheap plastic ones with them, but real anamorphic lenses are some of the most expensive kits you can get.
Yeah, if you go to a movie theater, obviously the aspect ratio of the screen is very different from your television. And then what's turned the kind of video world on its head is the aspect ratio on your phone is even different again. So like if you're shooting for Facebook, you need to shoot a different aspect ratio than if you're shooting for television. And if you're shooting for a movie to release something on a screen, it's a different. So it's all called the aspect ratio, different shapes. As you'll find out after you leave here, is there's a reason people go to school and study for years to learn all this stuff, because there's a lot. On the technical side, there's a lot to know, a lot of information. And it's always changing. Certain things are the same basics forever, but then the technology makes it a constant chasing the technology. So,
which makes it important to specialize in some sense. It's good to have a general understanding of every department, especially if you want to run a production someday. It's good to understand each of those departments and how they work. But the more you specialize, the more valuable your craft will become, because you're working on honing one set of skills versus a broader set of skills, which is possible. It just takes longer and a lot of practice, a lot of situations that you get the opportunity to develop skills in that department. So, yeah.